Hello, and welcome to another episode of In Just 1 Minute or So. Today we're going to talk about 5 steps to successful writing. Successful writing on the job is not the product of inspiration, nor is it merely the spoken word converted to print. It is the result of knowing how to structure information using both text and design to achieve an intended purpose for a clearly defined audience. Now, the best way to ensure that your writing will succeed, whether it is in the form of a memo, a resume, a proposal, or a web page, is to approach writing using the following steps. First, preparation. Second, research. Third, organization. Fourth, writing. 5, revision. You will very likely need to follow those steps consciously, even self-consciously at first. The same is true the first time you use new software, interview a candidate for a job, or chair a committee meeting. With practice, the steps become nearly automatic. That is not to suggest that writing becomes easy. It does not. However, the easiest and most efficient way to write effectively is to do it systematically. As you master the 5 steps, keep in mind that they are interrelated and often overlap. For example, your reader's needs and your purpose, which you determine in step 1, will affect decisions you make in subsequent steps. You may also need to retrace the steps. When you conduct research, for example, you may realize that you need to revise your initial impression of the document's purpose and audience. Similarly, when you begin to organize, you may discover the need to return to the research step to gather more information. The time required for each step varies with different writing tasks. When writing a complicated memo, for example, you might follow the 3 steps: preparation, research, and organization, by simply listing the points in the order you want to cover them. In such situations, you gather and organize information mentally as you consider your purpose and the audience. For a formal report, the first 3 steps require well-organized research, careful note-taking, and detailed outlining. For a routine email message to your coworker, the first 4 steps merge as you type the information on the screen. In short, the 5 steps expand, contract, and at times must be repeated to fit the complexity or context of the writing task. Dividing the writing process into steps is especially useful for collaborative writing, in which you typically divide work among team members, keep track of a project, and save time by not duplicating effort. When you collaborate, you can use email to share text and other files, suggest improvements to each other's work, and generally keep everyone informed of your progress as you follow the steps in the writing process. Let's get started with preparation. Writing, like most professional tasks, requires solid preparation. In fact, adequate preparation is as important as writing a draft. In preparation for writing, your goal is to accomplish the following 4 major tasks. Establish your primary purpose, assess your audience or readers and the context, determine the scope of the coverage, and select the appropriate medium. So, establishing your purpose. To establish your primary purpose, simply ask yourself what you want your readers to know, to believe, or to be able to do after they have finished reading what you have written. Be precise. Often, a writer states a purpose in such broad terms that the purpose statement is almost useless. A purpose such as to report on possible locations for a new research facility is too general. However, to compare the relative advantages of Paris, Singapore, and San Francisco as possible locations for a new research facility so that top management can choose the best location is a purpose statement that can guide you throughout the writing process. In addition to your primary purpose, consider possible secondary purposes for your document. For example, a secondary purpose of the Research Facilities Report might be to make corporate executive readers aware of the staffing needs of the new facility so they can ensure its a smooth operation in whichever location is selected. Assessing your audience and context. The next task is to assess your audience. Again, be precise and ask key questions. Who exactly is your reader? Do you have multiple readers? Who needs to see or to use the document? What are your readers' needs in relation to your subject? What are your readers' attitude about the subject? Are they skeptical, supportive, anxious, or bored? What do your readers already know about the subject? Should you define basic terminology, or will such definitions merely bore or even impede your readers? Are you communicating with international readers and therefore dealing with issues inherent in global communication? For the Research Facilities Report, the readers are described as top management. Who is included in that category? Will one of the people evaluating the report be the Human Resources Manager? If so, that person likely would be interested in the availability of qualified professionals as well as the presence of training, housing, and perhaps even recreational facilities available to potential employees in each city. The purchasing manager would be concerned about available sources for materials needed by the facility. The marketing manager would give priority to the facility's proximity to the primary markets for its products and services and to the transportation options that are available. The chief financial officer would want to know about the land and building costs and about each country's tax structure. The chief executive officer would be interested in all this information and perhaps more. As with this example, many workplace documents have audiences composed of multiple readers. In addition to knowing the needs and interests of your readers, learn as much as you can about the context. Simply put, context is the environment or circumstances in which writers produce documents and within which readers interpret their meanings. Everything is written in the context. To determine the effect of context on the Research Facilities Report, you might ask both specific and general questions about the situation and about your readers' backgrounds. Is this the company's first new facility? Or has the company chosen locations for new facilities before? Have the readers visited all 3 cities? Have they already seen other reports of other 3 cities? What is the corporate culture in which your readers work? And what are its key values? What specific factors such as competition, finance, and regulation are recognized as important within the organization? Determining the scope. Determining your purpose and assessing your readers and context will help you decide what to include and what not to include in your writing. Those decisions establish the scope of your writing project. If you do not clearly define the scope, you will spend needless hours on research because you will not be sure what kind of information you need or even how much. Given the purpose and audience established for the report on facility locations, the scope would include such information as land and building costs, available labor force, cultural issues, transportation options, and proximity to suppliers. However, it probably would not include the early story of the cities being considered or the climate and geological features unless those aspects were directly related to your particular business. And now moving on to selecting the medium. Finally, you need to determine the most appropriate medium for communicating your message. Professionals on the job face a wide array of options, from email, voicemail, video conferencing, and websites to more traditional means like letters, memos, reports, telephone calls, and face-to-face meetings. The most important considerations in selecting the appropriate medium are the audience and the purpose of the communication. For example, if you need to collaborate with someone to solve a problem, or if you need to establish rapport with someone, written exchanges could be far less efficient than a phone call or a face-to-face meeting. However, if you need precise wording or you need to provide a record of complex message, communicate in writing. If you need to make information that is frequently revised accessible to employees at a large company, the best choice must be to place the information on the company's intranet site. If reviewers need to make handwritten comments on a proposal, you may need to provide paper copies that can be fixed, or you may use word processing software and insert comments electronically. Let's move to step 2, research. The only way to ensure you can write about a complex subject is to thoroughly understand it. To do that, you must conduct adequate research, whether that means conducting an extensive investigation for a major proposal through interviewing, library and internet research, careful note-taking and documenting sources, or simply checking a company website and jotting down points before you send an email message to a colleague. Let's talk about the methods of research. Researchers frequently distinguish between primary and secondary research, depending on the types of sources consulted and the method of gathering information. Primary research refers to gathering of raw material compiled from interviews, direct observation, surveys, experiments, questionnaires, and audio and video recordings, for example. In fact, direct observation and hands-on experience are the only ways to obtain certain kinds of information, such as the behavior of people and animals, certain natural phenomena, mechanical processes, and the operation of systems and equipment. Secondary research refers to gathering information that has been analyzed, assessed, evaluated, compiled, or otherwise organized into accessible form. Such forms or sources include books, articles, reports, web documents, email discussions, and brochures. Use the methods most appropriate to your needs, recognizing that some projects may require several types of research and that collaborative projects may require those research tasks to be distributed among team members. Another thing to take into account is sources of information. As you conduct research, numerous sources of information are available to you. Your own knowledge and that of your colleagues, the knowledge of people outside your workplace gathered through interviewing for information, internet sources including websites, directories, archives, and discussion groups, library resources including databases and indexes of articles, as well as books and reference works. Printed and electronic sources in the workplace such as brochures, memos, emails, and web documents. Consider all sources of information when you begin your research and use those that are appropriate and useful. The amount of research you will need to do depends on the scope of your project. Step 3. Organization. Without organization, the material gathered during your research will be incoherent to your readers. To organize information effectively, you need to determine the best way to structure your ideas. That is, you must choose a primary method of development. So let's talk about those methods. An appropriate method of development is the writer's tool for keeping information under control and the reader's means of following the writer's presentation. As you analyze the information you have gathered, choose the method that best suits your subject, your reader's needs, and your purpose. For example, if you were writing instructions for assembling office equipment, you would naturally present the steps of the process in the order readers should perform them. The sequential method of development, that is. If you were writing about the history of an organization, your account would most naturally go from the beginning to the present, the chronological method of development. If your subject naturally lends itself for a certain method of development, use it. Do not attempt to impose another method on it. Often you will need to combine methods of development. For example, a persuasive brochure for a charitable organization might combine a specific to general method of development with a cause and effect method of development. That is, you could begin with persuasive case stories of individual people in need and then move to general information about the positive effects of donations on recipients. Another aspect is outlining. Once you have chosen a method of development, you are ready to prepare an outline. Outlining breaks large or complex subjects into manageable parts. It also enables you to emphasize key points by placing them in the positions of greatest importance. By structuring your thinking at an early stage, a well-developed outline ensures that your document will be complete and logically organized, allowing you to focus exclusively on writing when you begin the rough draft. An outline can be especially helpful for maintaining a collaborative writing team's focus throughout a large project. However, even a short letter or memo needs the logic and structure that an outline provides, whether the outline exists in your mind, on screen, or on paper. At this point, you must begin to consider layout and design, elements that will be helpful to your readers and appropriate to your subject and purpose. For example, if visuals such as photographs or tables will be useful, this is a good time to think about where they may be deployed and what kinds of visual elements will be effective, especially if they need to be prepared by someone else while you are writing and revising the draft. The outline can also suggest where headings, lists, and other specific design features may be useful. The fourth step is writing. When you have established your purpose, your reader's needs, and your scope, and you have completed your research and your outline, you will be prepared to write a first draft. Expand your outline into paragraphs without worrying about grammar, refinements of language usage, or punctuation. Writing and revising are different activities. Refinements come with revision. Write the rough draft, concentrating entirely on converting your outline into sentences and paragraphs. You might try writing as though you were explaining your subject to a reader sitting across from you. Do not worry about a good opening, just start. Do not be concerned in the rough draft about exact word choice, unless it comes quickly and easily. Concentrate instead on ideas. Even with good preparation, writing the draft remains a chore that for many writers. The most effective way to get started and keep going is to use your outline as a map for your first draft. Do not wait for inspiration. You need to treat writing as a draft as you would any on-the-job task. Consider writing the introduction last, because then you will know more precisely what is in the body of the draft. Your opening should announce the subject and give readers essential background information, such as the document's primary purpose. For longer documents, an introduction should serve as a frame into which readers can fit the detailed information that follows. Finally, you will need to write a conclusion that ties the main ideas together and emphatically makes a final significant point. The final point may be to recommend a course of action, make a prediction or a judgment, or merely summarize your main points. The way you conclude depends on the purpose of your writing and your reader's needs. And finally, step 5, revision. The clearer a finished piece of writing seems to the reader, the more effort the writer has likely put into its revision. If you have followed the steps of the writing process to this point, you will have a rough draft that needs to be revised. Revising, however, requires a different frame of mind that does writing the draft. During revision, be eager to find and correct faults and be honest. Be hard on yourself for the benefit of your readers. Read and evaluate the draft as if you were a reader seeing it for the first time. Check your drafts for accuracy, completeness, and effectiveness in achieving your purpose and meeting your readers' needs and expectations. Trim extraneous information. Your writing should give readers exactly what they need, but it should not burden them with unnecessary information or sidetrack them into loosely related subjects. Do not try to revise for everything at once. Read your rough draft several times, each time looking for and correcting a different set of problems or errors. Concentrate first on larger issues, such as unity and coherence. Save mechanical corrections like spelling and punctuation for later proofreading. Finally, for important documents, consider having others review your writing and make suggestions for improvements. For collaborative writing, of course, team members must review each other's work or segments of the document, as well as the final master draft. Alright, and that is all for today. Thank you so much for being there. And if you like today's topic, or you want to make a comment, or even subscribe, please do. Thank you so much.